Secure our borders now! Secure our borders now! Secure our borders now!
I came here not really sure what to expect. I can tell you what I deal with in Ohio. And maybe you guys don't know because you're right here on the front lines and you deal with this every day. Maybe you don't know just how far-reaching and the scope of this problem has become. It is everywhere. And there are pockets of places all over America where there are actual brokers. They are called brokers. And they are paid to come down here to the border and pick up those people that are crossing through your property and take them up to Ohio, to Indiana, to Kentucky, to New York, and give them jobs. Jobs that are never, ever offered to the American people. The companies go to these brokers and say, this is how many people I need, this is where they're going to stay, this is how long I need them, and how much I'm going to pay them, go get them. They go get them and they bring them up, and the United States of America, the citizens who live here, the law-abiding citizens who pay taxes, never know about those jobs. That's what's happening where I'm at. We also have legislators in just about every state, if not every state, in our country who are trying to change laws to make it more convenient for people who break our laws to continue to stay in our country. They are making it possible to give them driver's license. They are making it possible for them to receive in-state tuition, which is a big angst with me because I have 2 children that are in college, and they have to pay out-of-state tuition to go to the school that they want to go to. But the very school that they want to go to offers in-state tuition for people who are not even residents legally of our country. And I have a big issue with that. I also have a big issue with our elected leaders who tell us that they are up there representing us, but how many of you think that they are? No way! They're not representing me. Now let me just tell you a little bit about what I felt about President Bush's speech. I have to tell you a little bit about who I am so you can know just how frustrated I was with his speech. I gathered my whole entire family around. We'd been talking about this for some time, and when we found out that President Bush was going to address this, I asked my whole family to get together, sit down in the living room, and watch his speech and determine what we thought of what he said, based on what we know of the problem. I am a military wife. My husband is an officer in the United States Air Force who was stationed at the Pentagon on September 11th, 2001. Through a series of miracles, my husband was not in the place where he was supposed to be, which saved his life. Now, I want you to know that I always considered myself a pretty patriotic American citizen, but I realized that that day, not enough of us realize how much in danger we are in this country. And if we are at war, as the president continuously tells us, then somebody tell me why we have borders where people who are trying to kill us can cross without anybody ever knowing that they are coming here to try and kill us. This is not a matter of race or color. This is just common sense. Secure our borders and keep our families safe. I am also the mother of 8 children. My oldest is 20 and my youngest is 2. We have a pretty good span there. 2 of my sons have shown a desire to serve in the United States military. And I would like to tell you that one of them is reconsidering because he cannot understand how he can be asked to protect our nation when the President of the United States himself is asking us to open our doors and let our enemy in. He does not want to serve if that is the policy that the President of the United States is going to be presenting. Now, in his speech, he said a couple of things. He said that there are people who have a right to be citizens of this country. And I want you to know that I 100% agree, because I have a friend who's one of them. She is a wife of a military officer. They were married in Japan. They lived there for 8 years, and then they moved here. She has now just barely been here 4 years, which is the requirement to apply for citizenship if your husband is a United States citizen. So she is in the process of applying for her citizenship. They told her it is a 2-year process. I want you to know that about 8 months ago, we were at our church, and she was in a meeting with a couple of the pastors, and while she was in the meeting, her children were outside waiting. Her children range in age from 9 to 12. She has 4. And they were sitting out there waiting for their mom, and they just started to sing songs. Happy songs, fun songs, songs to pass the time. And then they started singing patriotic songs. And then, completely a cappella, they were singing. They began singing the national anthem. How many of you know there are 3 verses to the national anthem? 4? Well, shame on me. Because those kids sat there and they sang every verse a cappella without skipping a beat or missing a word, and brought tears to my eyes. That woman is the kind of woman that we want to be a citizen of the United States of America. Someone who embraces how great we are. President Bush was right. That man that served in the United States military for his country deserved citizenship. But where he failed in his speech was not showing both sides of this issue. That's right. He wore his rosy-colored glasses to present a rosy-colored picture and completely left out the part about the man who is sitting in Miami-Dade County Jail for molesting an 8-year-old girl who is an illegal immigrant here from El Salvador. And they cannot get him out of this country. This is the problem that we're facing. So while our elected leaders are trying to figure out who should stay and who should go, I want to say stop talking about it. It's not something we need to talk about. If our bathtub is overflowing with water, any child knows you go turn off the water faucet before you go get a mop. We cannot continue to keep bailing the water. We have got to shut off the spigot. It's common sense. We have 2 completely different issues here. We have the issue where we have our borders that are porous, and we have enemies that are walking across our threshold every day. That is a situation of national security. Our elected leaders are more than willing to get involved in all kinds of issues that they have nothing to do with, that they shouldn't have anything to do with based on the United States Constitution, but the one thing that is in there that they're supposed to be doing, keeping Americans safe, they are not doing. So I want to call on our elected leaders. Stop confusing the issue. Stop talking about a comprehensive bill. That's what it is. Comprehensive bill that could take years to work out. Let's just keep it simple. Let's just secure our borders and enforce our laws. And set up, I'm okay with setting up a legislative timetable. Let's do that. Let's set up a legislative schedule. Let's secure our borders, enforce our laws, and in 18 months, let's revisit what we've accomplished. And then in 3 years, if you think we need a guest worker program because Americans are not doing jobs for fair pay, then you give me a call, and I'll find someone who will. But that's when we can talk about this. We can talk about the second problem when the first problem has been addressed. So to Washington, to the President of the United States, and to you as Congress, I would like to say today, can you hear us now? Have we spoken loud enough? We have faxed you. We have emailed you. We have called you. We have stood on your doorstep. We are rallying. We have spent our own money, used our own time. We are committed. We are the patriots of America. We are the law-abiding, tax-paying citizens who elected you into office. Mr. President, secure our borders now. Thank you.
Every patriotic American wants God to bless America. God has blessed America. And He has blessed us because we're a nation founded upon godly principles. Our forefathers were not ashamed to pray. They were not ashamed to pass laws that were right for liberty and for freedoms. And because Americans still have some liberty to pray in some public places, we will exercise that liberty today. Shall we pray? Dear God, we thank you for life and liberty. We thank you for people who pray and seek to do good and right. Give us wisdom in all that we say and do. In your word, you have promised that if any man need wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives abundantly. Help us to seek first the things of God above all else. Grant us the courage to do right and to never compromise with wrong. Keep us safe in these activities today and bless those who trust in you. We pray for our leaders whom we have elected, that they would restore that same liberty that our forefathers put into place, and they would act upon that. We ask all these things because we know that you hear and you answer prayer. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much, Pastor Stoner. We will now recite the pledge, which will be led to us by J.T. Reddy.
Thank you very much. I'm J.T. Reddy from Americans First. Here's our flag here. If you could all put your hand over your heart, and we will say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Before I speak, I'd also like you to go ahead and take off your hats and just have a quick moment of silence for all of our veterans, and particularly our park rangers and Border Patrol agents who have lost their life in the line of duty defending our border here in the United States. Thank you very much. And I bring that home because you're a good, patriotic people. We've had rallies where anarchists and other groups have shouted and made all kinds of obscene noises, but that's not what's representative of the good Americans that are down here on the border that are defending us. And, you know, we can't be easily fooled either. President Bush said he's going to send some National Guard down to the border on his time frame, have them do a few things here and there. Well, Mr. Bush, that's not securing our border. Our home is on fire. It's burning to the ground with illegal immigration, and he's saying, well, let's turn on the sprinklers a little bit. All that is doing is encouraging more illegal aliens to come here so that they can get shamnesty from the likes of McCain and Ted Kennedy. But I'm going to tell you today that the power isn't in the presidency anyway. And the power is really not even in the halls of Congress. If you want to see the power and might of this great republic, the United States of America, I suggest you go home and look in your mirror. You are the voter, the citizen. Every 2 years, we have the opportunity to fire our congressman and hire one who will secure our border. And that's where the power lies. So the presidents can come and go. Vicente Fox, I could care less about him. He's term limited out anyway. Bush, term limited out anyway. I'm not wasting my stamps on that guy. He's already shown where he's going to be. But you know what? I'm going to be rapping on the door of my congressman until my knuckles are worn out. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to go to all my neighbors and I'm going to knock on their doors, and we're going to find congressmen and representatives who will represent the people. We the people. We're going to bring it back home. That's right. And, you know, years ago, there's some of us here that's been in this movement for a long time. Back when you said amnesty, people didn't even know what the word meant, or when we talked about illegal immigration before 9/11. People didn't understand what the urgency was, but you know, now, just to show you how victorious we are, you cannot turn on the TV or radio and not hear people talking about immigration, legal or illegal, and the secure border. This is a major, major victory. And I want to personally thank every single Minuteman and Minutewoman out there too. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, because the Minuteman Project has done a couple things. Number one, we proved a few years ago that we could secure the border. It could be done. There were even retired veterans right there on the line securing the border. So it proved that all you got to do is have troops on the border. And the other thing is, it's opened up the discussion across this nation. Lou Dobbs and others make their living talking about illegal immigration. So this is a very good victory. So if you ever think like, well, are we gaining ground? Are we making headway? Yes, absolutely. Why do you think the president got on there and had to talk about massive illegal immigration? Now, one of the things, I'm president of Americans First, one of the things that we've been doing is uniting the various groups together. You can all have your own individual agenda, that's fine, but we have to all agree on one thing, and that's a secure border. Amen. Absolutely secure border. That comes before anything. And it doesn't matter, race, creed, or whatever, you just stick to it about terrorists coming across the border. And we won't accept anything less than a completely secure border. Only after then can we have dialogue about anything else. And I'm not even going to fall for a guess who works here program anyway. until every American who's sitting at home collecting a welfare check that I pay for is picking strawberry and lettuce, I don't want to hear about important people from other countries into our land. Now, the other excuse that you'll hear from McCain and people like that, they'll say, well, there's too many here. Well, they had planned that. They wanted to be able to say that. There's 12 million. We can't send 12 million back. Well, you know what? The great countries of Mexico and Guatemala were able to get 12 million here. I think we can get 12 million back home. I'd be willing to chip in a bus ticket myself once we have a secure border. And I don't want to keep those families apart anyway. So tell them, you're anti-family. If you want to keep a family apart, let's get them back to their family. Now, their idea is to bring the whole family up with them. But you know what? There are 5 billion with a B, people worse off than everyone in Mexico in this world. When is enough enough? The best thing that we can do as Americans is say, you know what? Freedom works. The free market economy works. Private property rights works. I tell you what, we'll give you a copy of our Bill of Rights. We'll give you a copy of our Constitution. Earn your freedom, and it works. You'll be prosperous right where you are. Bangladesh or Guatemala or anywhere, it doesn't matter. So it's not about resources. It's about the freedom. And I don't mind helping out our neighbors to the south. I think that after we secure our borders, maybe we should. During the last war, which 2 of my brothers went to Afghanistan and Iraq, 2 tours each, and saw some rough things over there. Let me tell you something. They should be right here defending our borders. Right here defending our borders. And people talk about, well, the back door is wide open. No, it's our front door that's kicked wide open. This is where our homes and communities are. So we have to secure the borders and then make sure they go back home. But after that, Mr. Bush had a little deck of cards that he showed all the Ba'ath Party leadership during the Iraqi war. Well, I'm calling upon all of our Mexican friends, because you know what? I don't even see them all as illegal aliens. I see a lot of them as political refugees that are fleeing a terrible, terrible situation. And as a good neighbor, I do not intend on turning my back on them. I would love to help them out. I have to defend my homeland first. That's why I say Americans first. But after we do that, let me see that deck of cards again. Except this time, I want to see all the drug cartels on there. I want to see all the corrupt Mexican officials on there that are taking advantage of their own people. And you know what? I'm a former veteran. We'll get together and come help liberate your country. But we have to make sure that you understand it is your country, and you're welcome to speak your language, fly your flag, and be proud of your race and country in your country. And then we can be good neighbors. Well, folks, thank you very much. Proud to see you all down here. And I look forward to holding your hand down there on the border. God bless you.
JT here. He was going to be in Phoenix, and he surprised us. We're so excited he was able to come. He is another American patriot down on the border and on the line. All right, I would like to now first apologize for overlooking our opening ceremonies, and thank you for your indulgence. And then there was something I was supposed to... Oh, I wanted to give you a quick outline of what we're going to do just so you have an idea. Once the speakers are finished, we are going to be lining up right along that road over there. We cannot be anywhere on pavement, okay? I must reiterate that. We can be nowhere on pavement. I need you to be on dirt. We are going to line up and form a human fence. What is unique about this is that while you look around and you think, gosh, why don't we have thousands of people here? You guys, there are thousands of people rallying all over the country today for you, right here. They are in San Antonio, they are in Dallas, they are in Miami, they are in Orlando, they are in Washington, D.C., they're in New York City. What's very interesting is the rally that's being held in San Antonio is being held at the same time as the Texas GOP convention, which just happens to be being held at a conference center right across the street from the Mexican consulate in San Antonio.
All right.
20,000 people are going to be at that rally. Okay? So today the rally is a national rally, and you here on the border are the focus. You are the focus point, and everyone is linking hands at high noon Arizona time in solidarity for border security. They are with you, and they have asked me to tell you that they are. And they wish that they could be here, that they are in spirit, and they are mighty in might right where they are. So you are not alone today. I would like to now to introduce our next speaker. Ling-Ling, as I said, is the director of, excuse me, the Diversity Alliance for a Sustainable America. Ling-Ling is a naturalized citizen of Chinese ancestry, and she is the executive director of the Diversity Alliance for a Sustainable America, a national nonprofit organization whose leaders and supporters are racially and politically diverse, including Hispanic and Asian Americans. She was featured as a leader advocating sustainable immigration on page 1 of the Washington Post on May 11, 2006. It was a great article. Got to read it. Ms. Ye immigrated to the United States in 1980 after working 10 years preparing immigration applications in the U.S. Ms. Ye realized that although some immigrants are assets to the U.S., problems that concern natives and legal immigrants cannot be solved without also addressing rapid population growth given mainly by record levels of immigration. More than 200 of her articles have appeared in many publications across the U.S., such as the Los Angeles Times, Harvard Law School's Record, and some of her immigration articles have been printed in textbooks. Please welcome Miss Ye Ling-Ling.
I first would like to thank Kimblery Fletcher for inviting me here to speak. And I'm here to urge all legal residents, U.S. and foreign-born, of all racial and political backgrounds to join us to tell President Bush and amnesty advocates in Congress to stop misleading Americans with their so-called comprehensive immigration reform. That kind of reform has only one goal: to give amnesty to illegal aliens. The kind of reform passed in 1986 did not work. It never will. As you remember, in 1986, Congress promised Americans that the amnesty will be the last one, that we enforce measures to secure our borders. However, after 3 million illegal aliens were amnestied, most provisions to curb illegal immigration have been ignored. And President Bush and Amnesty in Congress are trying to do the same thing again. Now, if the amnesty bill passed by the Senate were to become law, Americans have to realize that over the next 20 years, at least 66 million more legal immigrants who are relatives of amnesty aliens will enter the United States. They, plus children born here of those newcomers, will require energy, will use healthcare, education, and also they need jobs. And also they require all sort of social services that any taxes they will pay will not cover, because most of them and their relatives will have low incomes? Do we have an unlimited supply of energy for this explosion of population growth? If we keep exporting jobs, importing workers, how could we expect millions of low-skilled Americans, including Katrina victims, find work? As we know, according to test scores, American children in many schools across the U.S. are not doing well compared to many children in many schools in Asia and Europe. And this mainly is due to an explosion of immigration-related enrollments in our schools. As we know, many Americans cannot afford health care, yet many of our hospitals across the United States are on the verge of filing for bankruptcy due to the health care they're required to provide to illegal aliens. And according to the census data, 95% of the growth of the uninsured population in the United States is due to immigrants arriving since '98 and their U.S.-born descendants. So the United States cannot achieve a long-term, fiscally viable healthcare reform without first substantially reducing immigration. Now, I would like to urge President Bush and amnesty advocates in Congress to examine Mexico's real intent before reforming immigration, which is also the title of my article, which appeared this February 11th in Harvard Law School's newspaper called The Record. As we know, Mexico has actively encouraged illegal migration to the United States. It has fought all U.S. measures to secure our borders, while it does not tolerate illegal immigration on its own soil. Back in 1997, the then President of Mexico, Zedillo, already said clearly in Chicago, quote, "I have proudly affirmed that the Mexican nation extends beyond the territory enclosed by its borders, and the Mexican migrants are a very important part of it," end quote. Back in 1995, Henry Cisneros, former HUD Secretary, said at a Hispanic conference in Southern California, quote, "As goes the Latino population will go to the state of California. As goes the state of California will go to the United States of America. My friends, the stakes are big. This is a fight worth making." And Mexican-American Charles Truxillo, New Mexico, publicly said a few years ago that American Southwest secession is an inevitability, he said, thanks to continued Hispanic immigration. He said if that continue, it's only a matter of time that American Southwest will be predominantly Hispanics, and that he promised that he will use the future, the electoral pressure of the future Hispanic majority of the region to achieve that goal. Another professor of UC Riverside, Mexican-American Armando Navarro, who has organized quite a few pro-local alien rallies, he publicly said, quote, "A secessionist movement is not something you would put away and say that will never happen in the United States. Time and history change," end quote. Now, if we amnesty just 6 million illegal Mexican migrants, adult naturalized citizens can vote in future elections, although I do know many Mexican Americans are very patriotic. We saw in recent demonstrations across the United States with many protesters waving Mexican flags and pressuring the United States with demands identical to Mexico's. So isn't it clear that Mexico is using both legal and illegal migration to strongly influence our policies, our future election, and eventually to extend the Mexican nation? Again, I would like to urge all Mexican and other Americans, all legal residents, regardless of your countries of birth, your racial and political backgrounds, please join us. Please tell President Bush and Congress to act responsibly, to learn from the lesson of 1986, and to actually focus first on securing our borders, on curbing illegal immigration. Show us, at least for 3 years, they can curb illegal immigration, they can secure our borders. Then Congress can reassess the situation in 3 years. instead of promoting amnesty that would exacerbate many problems that concern all of us, they in fact should reduce legal immigration to a level that would not add more energy consumers, students, and workers to the United States. We need to save unlimited resources to invest in all legal residents of diverse racial and political backgrounds. We have to remember, the United States now is the greatest debtor nation on earth. We owe China $266 billion. We have the highest budget and trade deficits. These problems are not caused by immigration, but certainly are exacerbated by an exploding illegal and legal immigration. Again, we need to control our border first. We need so that we can keep in America environmentally, socially, economically, and politically sustainable for all of us. Thank you very much.
One letter that Cindy and I received that really just floored us both was from a woman inside Mexico, and I thought I would share her letter with you because we keep being told that if we secure our borders, we're going to divide families. And I say, poppycock. If we secure our borders, we are going to be uniting families. And that is exactly what this woman from Mexico told me. I will not divulge her name because I am concerned for her safety. She lives in Tijuana, Mexico, and this is the letter that we received. I am a Mexican citizen living and working in Tijuana, which is a Mexican city that borders directly with the American city of San Diego, California. Illegal immigration to the USA is my passion because it has completely destroyed my family and is the reason why my children grew up with just too many conduct problems as they were raised as fatherless orphans when my ex decided to walk away from us to enter the USA as an illegal alien. The past 13 years have been a nightmare for me, and I thirst to get even. There are just no words for me to express what this devastation has been to me, and I just want to let you know that you are leaving too many Mexicans like me out of your rallies against open borders. In Mexico, I mean inside my country, there are many cities like Tijuana, Ciudad Juarez, Mexico City, who have American consulates outside of which we can rally on June 3rd. There are millions of 100% Mexicans like myself who would give their lives more than any Anglo-Saxon American to preclude Mexican males from leaving us and leaving Mexico. I want you to organize American tourists staying in Baja California, leaving Mexico. I want you to organize American tourists in Baja California, American citizens residing in Mexico and in Mexico City, and outraged Mexican citizens to rally at each one of the American consulate generals in Mexico to scream their lungs out against the United States of America and their open border policy. We want the open borders to stop and any form of amnesty on this coming June 3rd. I am here to help you in every way, shape, and form. I don't have a tourist visa, get this. I don't have a tourist visa to legally enter the USA, but I have an American mailing address and I can do for you as many things as you need me to do on behalf of your movement. The women of Mexico are just as ticked off as we are. Let their husbands go home. And if they don't take care of their families, let their wives whack them with a skillet for leaving in the first place. It is now my pleasure to introduce someone that I've been emailing back and forth, a lot of people, but Al Garza is the National Director of the Minuteman Civil Defense Corps. Those of you who have been on the front lines fighting this have been crying out for help for a long time. And the Minutemen have come down and have helped, and they really have done a lot to make this movement something that the American people are seeing. Al Garza is an amazing man. He is a citizen political, as the director of the Civil Defense Corps, he is a citizen political action, it is a citizen political action group, that assists Border Patrol in defending our southern and northern border with Mexico. He is a Marine combat veteran of Vietnam conflict with a background in hand-to-hand combat, weapons training, and military police while stationed at Camp Pendleton. Semper Fi! Al retired in 2003 after 32 years as a private investigator in Southern California. He currently lives here in Arizona. He joined the Minuteman Civil Defense Corps shortly after retiring due to the needless deaths in the desert and the lawlessness and anarchy on a sovereign border of the United States. Al has diligently dedicated 2 years to the Minutemen in a crusade to set a new standard for what it means to be an American. While our elected officials nonchalantly regard the Minutemen as vigilantes, boo, please. Thank you. The Minutemen are busy saving lives and reporting suspicious illegal activity to the proper authorities, an endeavor attributed to one of President Bush's eloquent speeches. Without one incident of violence, the Minutemen have peacefully turned over 6,000 illegal entrants to Border Patrol and saved 300 lives. Al believes in the rule of law and demands that people enter our nation legally and prove they are a productive reason for entering our country. Al has held leadership positions in various veteran organizations and assisted youth clubs as a big brother, counselor, and advisor. Al has challenged our elected officials to take their oath seriously, as he has, to serve and protect American citizens. Amen, brother. He says our government fears being called playground names and shows weakness by ignoring one of the most important issues affecting the future of our nation, and the taxpayers will no longer tolerate the hypocrisy. Ladies and gentlemen, Al Garza.
Thank you. Well. This is America, huh? Hoorah! Well, several years ago, I decided to retire, as the young lady just mentioned, as a private investigator in Southern California. Didn't take me very long to figure out that the land of paradise that I was really craving for was really not paradise, but a hellhole. And the reason I say hellhole is because I found out within a week's time that our borders were not only porous, that they were also dangerous. And boy, I'll tell you what, when I got to see what I saw, I just could not believe it. I was completely flabbergasted. I was angry. I was, you name it, I was. About a week after I saw this, well, I guess open borders, ironically, I was watching the news one afternoon and I fell across a young man, I'm sure you all know him, Chris Simcox, in the news. And at first, I really considered that, all the facts weren't really up to par and whatnot, so I was somewhat mystified and confused. Well, here we go again. Here's another radical, with his gun and whatnot. Well, it didn't take me long again to figure out that this really was not true. He was gracious enough to invite me after we had an interview. We interviewed one another. He was gracious enough to take me out to, a lot of people know the stretch up there, Mosen Road. Found a lot of trash out there, and prints, bottled water, Kentucky Fried Chicken, hamburger boxes, etc., soil clothing, to mention but a few things, not to mention the fact that the desert as a whole was a complete disaster. Within about, I'd say about 3 or 4 minutes, we ran across a group, I'm going to guess approximately 50 people, and among that group of 50 people were 2 elderlies. I'm assuming husband and wife, and they were in pretty bad shape. It was a day that was pretty hot. It was probably about 2 in the afternoon, well over 105, maybe even 110. It was pretty hot. These two, the couple, showed signs of dehydration. Obviously, they'd been in the desert walking quite some time. They looked pretty sickly. The first thing Mr. Simcox asked me to do was to go to his pickup, and unbeknownst to me, he carried a lot of water in the back of his truck. He asked me to be kind enough to walk to his truck and obtain a couple of gallons of water and bring them to the elderly. I did. In talking with these people, I was asking them in Spanish, and by the way, he did emphasize the fact that make no gestures. If you communicate, make sure it's a distance, and he was obviously videotaping my actions. Make sure you make no gestures, because that could be misconstrued. That could be interpreted by someone as a detainment or an arrest. No problem, let's do it. In short, we went ahead and gave them the water, and I spoke to these people and asked them why they were doing what they were doing, and obviously they were looking for jobs that Americans won't do, right? Well, needless to say, their lives were spared. They were saved. And I asked Chris Simcox where I could sign up for the Minuteman. I've been with him ever since. Over the last couple of years, I've seen things that I've never even seen as an MP or as a private investigator, and I thought I'd seen it all. I had not. These people are so different. By the way, by my last name, I guess you would all know that I do carry Hispanic blood in me. I'm Italian, Spanish, and Mexican, and I'm very proud of all three. But I'm equally proud to be an American. I stem 5 generations in this country. And the reason I say this is because it is important. The fact that me being Hispanic has nothing to do with shutting down our borders. Nothing at all. The reason I say that is because in the 5 generations, my grandfather fought in World War I. He was wounded. He lost 2 of his brothers in World War I. He sired a family of, believe it or not, 17, and they were all pretty brilliant. My father was one of them. My father he was in World War II. He fought in Japan. He lost a brother in Japan, and he also lost one in Germany. Then came the grandchildren. My cousin was killed in Vietnam, and I was wounded in Vietnam. So we've got a long history of not only being in America, proud Americans, but we fought for this country. And I'll be damned if we're going to turn it over to Mexico or anybody like Mexico. It's not going to happen. This is what this is all about. Now, with all that said, this is not your average invasion, so to speak, without firing around. This is an outright influx, a tsunami, and it is a war. They are fighting a war. A silent war that they thought we weren't onto them, but we're a lot smarter than they thought, aren't we? We're not going to give this country away. We have bled too much for it. Old Glory here means way too much for us. Whatever it takes, we will redeem our country. Mr. Fox, I got news for you, pal. We're on to you, pal. We're on to you, Mr. Fox. We are no longer the roadrunner and you chasing us around. Now we're chasing you. Yes. We know who you are. We know what you're doing. We know what you've got these poor people doing. And by God, we're going to stop it. Yep. Now, as I said, I've been involved for well over 2 years. Actually, almost close to 2.5 years, and I've loved every minute. I thought I was going to retire here, right, in paradise. Short cry from a retirement. I retired as a PI chiefly because I was tired. 7 days a week, darn near 24 hours a day, actually more than 32 years. But I was exhausted. So when I came here, I wanted to retire. I bought me a little tractor that's just sitting there now. I've driven it once. I always wanted a tractor. I bought it, drove it once, and it's been sitting there well over 2 years. I don't even know if it starts now. But the point is that I got involved with the Minuteman because I saw the cause, I saw the purpose, and I wanted to be a part of it. And I'm very proud to be a Minuteman. I truly am. We have been called the KKK. We've stood tall. We've been called the Vigilantes. We've stood tall. We've been called radicals. We've been called all sorts of names. We bit our tongue. Not that I didn't want to unloosen my tongue once in a while, but for the sake of our country and the sake of the Minutemen's reputation, I chose to bite my tongue. And I've held on pretty well. But again, there are reasons for it. Our country needs us. It's obvious that our elected officials are not going to do the job they're being paid to do. They're not going to do it. For some reason, I have a feeling they're afraid of Mr. Vicente Fox. Well, I got news for you, Mr. Fox. I'm not. And neither is America. I got news for the Congress, the Senate. We are voters. We voted you in, we'll vote you out. It's that simple. Do your job, save America, and illegal immigrants, I got news for you. If you want to do jobs that Americans won't do, then do them, but we don't require 20 million of you. We've got enough here. Let's work with closing the borders. We're really adamant about this. Rule of law is a component that we're really sticky about. Rule of law. Public safety, and national security, secure borders, and do your job. Folks, thanks a lot. I know it's hot. It's been nice talking to you. God bless you. God bless America. And I'll see you around.
It's a full-time job to try and get your elected leader to listen to you. And so what I did was form an organization so that women could come together and I could flip a button and they would speak and put hell and fury of the women of America in the minds and hearts of the people in Washington who are ignoring us. So, one of the things that inspired me was one of our founding fathers said that in the Revolution, the war for our independence would have been lost were it not for the women joining the fight. Now, they joined the fight in a lot of ways. They completely took over their homes while their husbands went to serve. They were on the home front, sometimes fighting back the British that were coming to try and destroy their homes. They made T-shirts and shirts and clothes for the Washington's army. When the United States government couldn't figure out how to do it, the women got together and said, well, by golly, they need shirts, we'll make them, and they did it. And then there was Abigail Adams, who in her own kitchen took her silver and she melted it down to form bullets for the army. The women joined the fight. Now, the women have always been a very big part of our nation. We are the mothers of tomorrow's generation, and what we teach them forms our leaders for tomorrow. Those women who bring their children to these rallies are teaching their children that it is important to stand up for American principles. The women were at the forefront of the abolitionist movement. We were at the forefront of women's suffrage. We have been a major part of every battle in United States history. And the next couple of speakers you will hear, you will know that we are putting the fear of God in the men of Washington because, gentlemen, the women have joined the fight. Cindy Kolb. Cindy Kolb alone will put the fear of God in those men. Cindy and Ed Kolb support every group of concerned citizens across the United States of America that educate, document, and disclose the truth about illegal entries into our country. This woman is amazing. She goes out in her own yard and sees the illegals coming, tracks them down, photographs them, and sings hallelujah choruses in the middle of the fields to get them out of the trees. They are two citizens that have stepped forward and volunteered to promote many volunteer groups here in Cochise County and around the country. They are in many of the documentaries that are now released, including The Line in the Sand, Cries of the Border, and many others. Cindy designed and operates the website Desert Visions, where she posts photos of the devastation to the ranches caused by the illegal immigration crossings. Cindy and Ed and a handful of other Cochise County residents created Civil Homeland Defense in 2002, which became the Minuteman Project and the Minuteman Civil Defense Corps in April of 2005. Ed and Cindy have provided law enforcement with photo documentation of illegal aliens hiding in the bushes by the rural school bus stops. Those photos have been used in the national press and hand-carried to Washington by law enforcement officials. The Kolb's photo documentation is displayed on websites throughout the country. Cindy has written articles about the destruction of rural Cochise County, the loss of freedom, and the fear for citizens caused by the illegal aliens that hired the human smugglers to lead them through the numerous human, drug, and slave trails across the borderlands and in my backyard. Cindy's articles have frequently been published on the web and in the Tombstone Tumbleweed. Ed Kolb photographed and disclosed the rape tree and has brought national attention to the law enforcement and the public, providing evidence to the fact that illegal alien women and children are raped in the smuggling trails. The Kolbs, along with other concerned residents, collected up illegal alien garbage in their rural neighborhood and have found creative ways to display the backpacks, water bottles, undergarments, clothing, and food for all the public, including Congressman Jim Colby, to see. I spent a few minutes with Cindy last night in front of her computer as she went through and showed me these photos, and I've seen them on her website. But when you see them and she tells you the story behind them, it is absolutely heart-wrenching. You guys live in a war zone, and it needs to stop. We're all suffering all over the country, but the country needs to know what you are dealing with down here. It is absolutely ridiculous that you have to live as American citizens in your own homes, on your own land, on your own soil, in fear of people who are invading your property and destroying your hard-earned time, effort. It is unacceptable. And Cindy Kolb is one of those people who is shining the light on this devastation and is joining the fight, has been involved in the fight for some time, to stop this devastation. Cindy Kolb.
I'm a grandma vigilante. That's what President Bush calls me. Can everybody hear me? Our own Congressman Raul Grijalva called myself and every concerned citizen out here a cockroach. Our congressman, our own President Bush, called us vigilantes. And Janet Napolitano in 2003 went to Mexico and announced to Vicente Fox that she wanted the vigilantes arrested and prosecuted. Well, Janet Napolitano, we're still here and we're not going away. If anyone's never had the privilege of crossing the barbed wire fence and walking through the human smuggling trails, the drug smuggling trails, and the sex slave trade trails, we have documented those for you on desertvisions.us. If it's not documented, it didn't happen. Well, America, it's happening. And what happens on the border does not stay on the border. It has hit every city, town, and state USA. We have shouted the warning. Names will not make us go away. If you have a chance, look on the table at the photos of trash. President Bush, we don't want 1 penny of our tax money spent to pick this up. You've called the illegals to come into our country. You continue to call the illegals to invade our country. Mr. Bush, we have your garbage bag. Come pick it up yourself. No vigilantes will go with you to protect your ass out in that field. You go yourself. Congressman Colby, come pick it up. Janet Napolitano, come pick it up. Raul Grijalva, come pick it up.
Yeah.
We don't want our tax dollars spent. John McCain, let's not leave any of them out. Armando Navarro, we have your garbage bag. We got your number. In the year 2000, Ed and I started documenting the destruction in the desert. First of all, I would like to thank our Border Patrol agents, men and women, who are dedicated to protecting your country with one hand tied behind their back and their mouth taped. They are not allowed to disclose the documentation to the American people. Washington shuts them up and leaves them on the front line to be shot at. Second of all, I'd like to thank Glenn Spencer, American Patrol. When we read about Glenn Spencer in 2001, and he was called all this lying names that the newspaper could call him, we called and said, we love you, what do you need? We have a camera. When Chris Simcox came to Cochise County in 2002, we said, we love you, we have a camera, what do you need? And from that, we gathered together and we formed Civil Homeland Defense, which became the Minuteman Project. I'd like to introduce the men and women to you that have crossed that fence and documented the truth of the trails. My name is Cindy Kolb.
My name's Ed Cole. I've been doing this for 5 years. I've been screaming that something's going wrong. People are invading my neighborhood.
I've been doing this since '99. So it's great to see people come from all over. We used to just get a handful of us Cochise County residents, and we thought we were doing something. And to see people coming from Ohio and Florida, this is amazing. It makes us feel good, so we appreciate you guys. Without the support of you guys, I'd probably be in jail, and Cindy and Ed would probably have been overrun by now. Cindy and Ed might very well be dead, so we appreciate what you guys are doing. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Bill Dorr. I'm one of the original CHD people. There's another gentleman that was supposed to be here, John Stathis, but he wasn't able to make it, so just like to have him on record. You know, I have a comment to Mr. Bush. If Mr. Bush was really sincere about securing this border, he could do it overnight. All he has to do is write an executive order, and it would be done. Thank you.
Yeah.
Next person is Kathy Harvey. She's very important.
Thank you. My name is Catherine Harvey. My husband Henry Harvey and I started doing this about 12 years ago and often wondered if anybody else cared. We were glad to see Glenn Spencer come to our area, glad to see Chris Simcox, and regretfully my husband passed away after the first week of the first Minuteman project, but he was thrilled to death, and if he were here today, he would be overjoyed to see that this concern has spread throughout this country. And I just ask you all to go home and continue to do what you can. Send those emails, those faxes, those phone calls. Boycott the places that hire the illegals and don't do business with them. And be sure to get out and vote in November.
All right. All right.
Hello, my name is Ray Boughton, and I live over here 4 or 5 miles away, Palominas. I used to live right down on the Mexican border, and I could see the nonsense that went on that border right from my house every single day of the week. I lived, probably 12, 14 years ago when I was down there. I had no electric, no telephone, which is just fine for me. I lived on a little small ranch. Anyway, I used to think I was down there in this by myself. Well, I'll tell you what, today I'd like to thank everybody here because it feels really good to find out that you're not in this by yourself anymore. Thank you all.
Hi, my name is Kim King. Is this working? Anyway, we need Homeland Security and American First. In America First. I'm not used to talking on one of these. I have lost my freedom. I think we all have. I used to be able to ride my horses up in the mountains and enjoy it. Now when I wake up in the morning, I have anxiety attacks because we have no freedom. Mr. Bush needs to wake up. And God bless America.
My name is Mike Christie. I'm the Director of Operations for Glenn Spencer's American Border Patrol. You guys think it's, the vast majority of Americans think it's really tough to get into this country, but my partner and I were able to smuggle a simulated weapon of mass destruction from Mexico and deliver it into Tucson, not once, not twice, 3 times. So if that doesn't say that we need to shut down this border, if for nothing else, our own national security, I don't know what does.
Didn't you tell him you were going to do it too before?
Oh yeah, well the first time we didn't tell him. The second time we got a bunch of news media down there. We said we're going to do it again, and we're going to do it on this date, and we did it, and then we did it again. So yeah, it's way too easy. So we need to shut down this border.
A big round of applause for all the folks who are willing to climb over the fence and document the smuggling trails. Thank you, everyone. Ron Stone is here also. He's from Cochise County. He's been at it 10 years. His ranch is being invaded. President Bush, we are against the slave trade. We recognize that you are against the abolishment of slavery. And we are against it. And we'll stand united. The United States is standing with us today. United Patriots of America in New Jersey is standing with us. There's groups all over the country. So we're not holding hands by ourselves out here today. The United States is holding hands with us, and they're being educated. Let's document what's happening to our country. Thank you.
One after another. We will continue to hold these rallies all over the country. We will continue to make our statements. We will continue to email. We will continue to fax. We will continue to phone call. And if they turn us out, we must turn them out. We must tell everyone, these are the people who are not securing our borders. These are the people who are not protecting our children. Our next speaker she's actually a guest today. We have some really cool things that are going on if you guys don't know. How did you know Frosty Wooldridge? All right. He was on Fox and Friends the other day, did an excellent job. Excellent job. He is today in Salt Lake City, Utah at the Capitol with his 21st Century Paul Revere ride, and they are doing a reverse Alamo. He is going to the capital of Utah, and then he is going to the Mexican consulate. And there will be hundreds and hundreds of motorcycles in this Paul Revere ride, and a whole lot of citizens who are up in arms about what's going on in their state, who will be rallying as well for border security. Today we are very pleased to have Melinda Smith with us. Her husband called me yesterday and said that he has briefly left the Paul Revere ride and hopes to return really quick, but he rode with them for the first couple of legs of the ride, and he has sent his wife down to us to tell us a little bit about what's going on the 21st Century Paul Revere ride. Melinda?
My husband Danny Smith is an original member of the Paul Revere Riders. He was involved in the pre-ride preparation, the send-off ceremony, and rode the first leg of the ride from Denver to Cheyenne. He had to unexpectedly return home from Cheyenne, but his heart and total support remained with the Paul Revere Riders team. He had to be in Phoenix today, so he sent me. But he has a few words that I'd like to pass on to you. My patriotic friends, Frosty and the team are literally riding high. As we speak today, they are in Salt Lake City at a rally just like this one. Their single-minded goal is to make all of America aware of the catastrophic consequences of continued mass illegal immigration. The Paul Revere ride has the capability of being a huge success. It will undoubtedly reach out to hundreds of thousands of citizens who, whether they know it or not yet, will be interested in learning more about the crossroads we are approaching as a sovereign nation and the consequences of inaction. The riders will raise awareness to a new level. We had 3 rallies that first day, and my experience was that the large majority of the people we met along the way strongly support our effort, once they are made aware of even a few actual facts and figures. It was very gratifying to hear people saying that they were going to call friends and relatives in such and such a state to make sure they attend the rally when the riders come through. The success of the mission will depend on the turnout to the rallies, and therefore the media's perception of the mission as a newsworthy event. The Paul Revere team is hoping their message will reach millions of ears. You can help. Please do everything you can to get everyone you know across the country to attend the rally in their state. We must create a counter-critical mass to the U.S. Senate and its disastrous amnesty legislation. Legislation so anti-American that is absolutely beyond belief. Legislation so poorly planned and written that they attempt to hide the true details and consequences in blathering and demeaning double talk. I am insulted. We must give every ounce of support we have to the House of Representatives in their conference fight with the loons in the Senate. To secure our borders first, we must let the House of Representatives know that America stands behind it and America expects a victory. The riders will be in Phoenix on the morning of June 20th at Childress Buick on Camelback Road at I-17. Please be there to support and encourage them. We got many, many thank yous on that first day, and that is what will drive the riders to Washington, D.C. on August 12th. 17,000 miles in 10 weeks on a motorcycle is truly a grueling trip. T-shirts like the one Melinda is wearing will be available in Phoenix for only $10. T-shirt sales are financing the trip, and they need all the financial help they can get. If you can't make it to the Phoenix rally but would like to give your support by buying a T-shirt, Melinda will take orders. Melinda will take orders today, that's me, and buy the shirts in Phoenix and deliver them to Cindy and Don, who agreed that they would help out with this, by Wednesday, June 22nd, for you to pick up at your convenience. If any of you have websites, please consider posting information about the ride and encouraging attendance at the rallies. If any of you have address books containing other supporters, please consider mass emailing. Anything you can do will help. These riders are good and unselfish people who are doing the right thing for all of us. Please support them any way you can. Thank you, Danny Smith, retired businessman, concerned citizen, Vietnam vet.
She came and she's out of her element and she did an excellent job. The Paul Revere ride is something that's already gaining attention. Like I said, he's been on Fox and Friends, he's been on other national media. They are getting attention, but we do need to have people at the rallies. I'm in charge of the August rally in Ohio. I'm really excited about that. I've already started letting people know about it. If you have family that lives in other states, tell them too. Just spread this wherever you can. The Paul Revere ride has got to be something that everybody knows about. We've got to work together. That's really important. That's one of the reasons why SOS Borders was formed. We wanted to unite all of the organizations for this one purpose, securing our borders. And just as JT said, we may not agree on all of the different components of our organizations. We all have our own missions. But by pulling together and supporting one another, we have more clout. And we show the Washington that what we have is the same thing that the other side has. We are united and we are mad. And we want our country to be what it was intended to be. A sovereign nation, a safe nation, a secure nation for the citizens of the United States of America.